What if I told you the men who love the hardest are often the ones who lose themselves the fastest? Not because they're weak, but because no one ever taught them where love ends and self-respect begins. They think being emotionally available means giving everything: time, energy, presence, even when it empties them. But here's what no one tells you. There's a difference between being present for her and getting swept away by her. Most men don't know where that line is until they're already drowning in it. The truth: being emotionally available doesn't mean absorbing her storm. It means being the shore it can crash against. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can say is, "I can't do this right now," not out of rejection, but out of responsibility for your own soul. In the next few minutes, we'll uncover why overgiving slowly erodes your respect, your connection, and your identity. And why women don't truly want a man who disappears into their needs, but one who can stand firm in his own center while holding space for hers. Once you understand this shift, you'll stop chasing closeness and start creating real connection, the kind that actually lasts. Here's a painful truth most good men don't see coming. Sometimes the more you give in a relationship, the more invisible you become. Let's meet Chris. Chris was the kind of partner every woman says she wants. Thoughtful, present, safe. He remembered birthdays, never forgot anniversaries, and always asked how her day was, even when his own was falling apart. So when his girlfriend Rachel started growing distant, he panicked. He didn't fight back. He gave more attention, more late-night talks, more "are you okay?" texts. He thought, this is what she needs. I just have to be there more. But the more present he became for her, the more absent he felt to himself. He stopped going to the gym, stopped meeting his friends, stopped doing the things that made him him. Because somewhere deep inside, he believed that being emotionally available meant being constantly available. Until one day, Rachel looked at him and said, "You're always around, but I don't feel you anymore." Chris didn't say anything. He just nodded. But later that night, he stared at the ceiling and asked himself a question he had never dared to ask. What if I've been loving her in a way that's slowly making me disappear? It's a haunting thought. And the worst part? He's not alone. Because there's a whole generation of men raised to believe that love means self-erasure. But where does that belief come from? Let's go back to where it all begins and talk about the silent damage of being the nice guy. Here's the lie so many men grow up believing: if you just keep her happy, you'll stay safe. You'll be loved. That's the story Michael carried since childhood. He learned early that expressing his needs only led to conflict. So he became what Dr. Robert Glover calls a nice guy. Pleasant, agreeable, always smiling, even when he felt like screaming inside. By the time he entered adulthood, Michael had one rule in relationships: don't rock the boat. He picked restaurants she liked, changed his opinions to match hers, never disagreed, even when he should have. And it worked. At first, women adored him. They'd say, "You're so different, so emotionally present." But over time, the same pattern emerged. They grew distant, irritated, cold. One girlfriend even said, "It's like you're too good to be real." And in a way, he wasn't. Michael wasn't being himself. He was playing a role, suppressing his frustration, swallowing his opinions, smiling through unmet needs. This is the trap. Nice guys don't love more, they disappear more, and eventually, they explode or fade out completely. In No More Mr. Nice Guy, Glover writes, "Nice guys believe if they are good, giving and caring, they will be loved and get their needs met." But this is a flawed strategy. Nice guys rarely get what they want in love or life. Because when you abandon yourself for connection, you build closeness on resentment. And that resentment? It doesn't stay quiet for long. Because what happens next is the part most men don't see coming. When all that suppressed emotion finds a way out, whether you like it or not. Let's look at how that leak begins. You can only hold it in for so long. Eventually, the things you bury come out sideways. Ethan was one of those men who prided himself on being calm under pressure. No raised voices, no dramatic arguments, just steady, reliable love. But under that calm exterior was a growing tension he didn't know how to name. His girlfriend, Jenna, often said things like, "I just need you to show up more emotionally." So he tried. He listened, nodded, checked in constantly, gave her space when she needed it. But slowly, something inside Ethan started changing. He stopped laughing at her jokes. He stayed quiet in conversations, not out of peace, but because he didn't care enough to speak. He wasn't angry, he was numb. Until one night, over something as small as a missed dinner plan, he snapped. Not by yelling, but by shutting down completely. He didn't call, didn't text, disappeared for 2 days. And when Jenna finally asked what was wrong, he said words that shocked even himself. "I don't know who I am around you anymore." This is how the emotional leak works. It doesn't explode all at once. It seeps out. Through cold silences, sudden pullbacks, passive-aggressive jokes, and hidden resentment. Because here's the truth. You can't keep giving from a place that's already empty. Eventually, your nervous system rebels. But why does this keep happening, even in loving relationships? Let's talk about something deeper most couples never understand: polarity. And why trying to merge emotionally can kill the very attraction you're trying to protect. Here's something nobody warns you about. The more you try to become her, the less she feels drawn to you. Meet Olivia and Daniel. In the beginning, their chemistry was magnetic. Olivia was expressive, emotional, spontaneous, a force of nature. Daniel was grounded, calm, deliberate, her safe place. But somewhere along the way, Daniel stopped being the anchor. To meet her emotionally, he began matching her energy. When she cried, he panicked. When she vented, he mirrored her stress. When she needed strength, he gave softness. And at first, Olivia appreciated the effort. But over time, she began to feel something she couldn't quite name. Restless, frustrated, disconnected. Until one night, during a small disagreement, she blurted out, "I don't need you to feel everything I feel. I need to feel you." Daniel was stunned. He thought closeness meant sameness, that merging emotions would bring them closer. But what he didn't realize is this: emotional polarity creates attraction. As the way of the superior man teaches, feminine energy flows like water, emotional, intuitive, ever-changing. Masculine energy, by contrast, is like a container, steady, directed, rooted. And when both energies collapse into emotional fusion, something dies. Tension, desire, polarity. So while Daniel thought he was creating intimacy, he was unknowingly dissolving the spark. But here's the question that changes everything. Is it possible to be deeply connected to her emotions without drowning in them? Let's explore the emotional blueprint most men were never taught, and what it means to anchor instead of absorb. There's a difference between being present for her and getting swept away by her. Most men don't know where that line is until they're drowning in it. Let's talk about Jason. Jason loved Lily deeply. She was passionate and emotionally rich, the kind of woman who could feel the whole world in one evening. When she cried, he held her. When she raged, he softened. And when she spiraled, he spiraled with her. He thought that was empathy, that being emotionally available meant feeling it all with her. But over time, something shifted. Jason began waking up anxious, even on calm days. He stopped trusting his own intuition. His emotional state was no longer his. It was a reaction to hers. Until one day, during a quiet conversation, Lily looked at him and said, "I don't need you to carry it. I just need to know you can hold it." That hit him like a bolt of lightning. Because being emotionally available doesn't mean absorbing her storm. It means being the shore it can crash against. Like a lighthouse, your job isn't to chase the waves, it's to stand still, steady, lit up, no matter how dark the sea gets. But here's where most men struggle. How do you hold that steady ground when the emotional storm feels overwhelming? To do that, you need one thing most men mistake for selfishness, and that's boundaries. Let's talk about why saying no is sometimes the most loving thing you can do. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can say is, "I can't do this right now." Not out of rejection, but out of responsibility for your own soul. Let me tell you about Erin and Mark. Mark was gentle, the kind of man who never raised his voice, always made room for Erin's emotions, no matter how big they got. He let her vent at midnight, even when he had an early shift. He skipped family gatherings because she felt anxious about crowds. He cancelled a solo hiking trip, something he'd planned for months, because Erin said, "I just don't feel right with you going." And in each of those moments he told himself, this is love. Love means sacrifice. But one evening, after yet another quiet dinner filled with tension and unspoken needs, Mark looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. He didn't feel loving anymore. He felt hollow. That's when a friend handed him, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," and one line stopped him cold. Saying yes to everything isn't kindness. Sometimes it's fear in disguise. Mark realized he wasn't being loving. He was being avoidant. He wasn't setting boundaries, because deep down, he was afraid she'd leave. So he started small. He went on that hike. He turned off his phone at night. And instead of pulling her closer with compliance, she started respecting him more. What's one boundary you set that changed everything, even if it felt terrifying at the time? Tell me below. Your story might help someone else do the same. Because here's the paradox. True closeness isn't built on self-abandonment. It's built on mutual integrity. But doesn't setting limits risk pushing her away? Let's talk about that next, and explore the kind of connection that doesn't demand sacrifice, but invites security. You don't have to disappear to be loved. Real connection isn't about losing yourself in someone. It's about being fully seen while staying whole. Let me tell you about Claire and Ryan. Claire had always believed love meant total fusion. She and Ryan did everything together. Same meals, same routines, even shared a social media account. It felt romantic at first, safe, like they were two halves of one soul. But over time, something began to unravel. Ryan became quieter. Claire became more anxious. If he needed space, she took it personally. If she had a bad day, he felt responsible to fix it. The more they merged, the more they lost the spark and the stability. One night, after a small misunderstanding turned into a silent 2-day standoff, they sat together on the couch, exhausted. Claire finally said, "I miss you, even though you're right here." That moment cracked something open. Ryan gently replied, "Maybe we've been trying so hard to be one. We forgot how to be two." In the book Attached, Amir Levine explains that secure love isn't about constant closeness. It's about healthy interdependence. The ability to say, "I'm here with you, and I'm still me." That's when Claire and Ryan began doing something new, spending time apart, setting emotional boundaries, and oddly enough, they started feeling closer than ever. Because love doesn't mean entanglement, it means trust. But what does emotional presence really look like when you're no longer reacting, fixing, or losing yourself? Let's meet the man who learned to hold space without vanishing into it. There's a quiet strength that doesn't shout, doesn't fix, doesn't flinch. It simply stays, present, grounded, fully alive, even in the middle of someone else's storm. Nathan had always been the fix-it guy. If his partner cried, he searched for solutions. If she vented, he interrupted with advice. If she withdrew, he chased. But nothing ever seemed to work until he met Maya. Maya was different. She didn't need rescuing. She needed resonance, not reaction. One day, after a tough conversation about her childhood trauma, Maya broke down. Nathan felt the familiar panic rise, the urge to do something, but this time, he paused. He took a breath, and he simply said, "I'm here. Take your time. You don't have to go through this alone." He didn't touch his phone. He didn't offer advice. He just sat beside her, fully present, fully himself. And something incredible happened. Maya stopped crying. She looked at him and whispered, "I've never felt so safe with someone who didn't say much." That's when Nathan realized, presence isn't about words, it's about weight. It's about staying rooted in your own emotional truth, while witnessing hers. In The Way of the Superior Man, David Dida writes, "She doesn't want you to fix her emotions, she wants to feel your depth through hers." Nathan wasn't trying to be her solution anymore, he had become her container. But how do you actually make that shift, from reactive partner to grounded witness? Let's explore the subtle mindset shift that turns emotional chaos into deep connection. It's not always a grand gesture that saves the relationship. Sometimes it's a silent decision made deep inside that changes everything. Let me tell you about Jordan. He had spent most of his adult life trying to prove his love, through acts of service, sacrifice, constant availability. And yet, no matter how much he gave, every relationship ended the same. The other person pulled away, and he was left drained, confused, empty. One day, during a quiet drive with his partner Sophie, she asked, "Why do you always feel so far away, even when you're right next to me?" Jordan's heart sank. He had done everything to not feel distant. But in that moment, something finally clicked. He realized he had been showing love by disappearing, by overgiving, over-apologizing, overcompensating. So he made a new promise to himself. I will stop trying to prove my worth and start honoring it. From that day forward, things began to shift. He didn't show love through self-sacrifice. He showed it by presence, by choosing to stay rooted, by offering attention that came from overflow, not obligation. And Sophie noticed. She said, "You feel different now, calmer, more here, more you," because the shift wasn't external, it was internal. Jordan was no longer reaching for love from emptiness. He was bringing love from wholeness. And that's what changed the game. But now the real question is, what does it actually mean to be emotionally available without losing yourself at all? Let's bring it all home. Here's the truth no one teaches you soon enough. Being emotionally available doesn't mean handing over your heart like a blank check. It means knowing who you are so deeply that your presence becomes an anchor, not a sacrifice. Every man in these stories, Chris, Mark, Nathan, Jordan, started by doing what they thought was right. They gave more, softened more, made space. But what they didn't realize was, they were erasing themselves in the process. And that's where everything turned. Because emotional availability isn't about becoming less of yourself. It's about becoming more of who you truly are, and standing in that with love. It's the man who says, "I see your pain, and I'll sit beside you in it, but I won't drown to prove my care." It's the man who chooses presence over performance and boundaries over burnout, who says yes with his whole heart and no without guilt. That's what the emotional whirlpool teaches us. That love isn't about losing your center. It's about finding it and offering it as a gift. Because the most powerful thing you can bring to any relationship is you, rooted, aware, whole. And when you show up from that place, you don't just become emotionally available, you become unforgettable. He thought he was showing love by disappearing. He gave more, listened more, softened more. Until one day, he couldn't hear his own voice over hers. He did everything right, and that's what went wrong. But now, he understands. Emotional availability doesn't mean emotional erasure. It's not about dissolving into someone else's waves. It's about becoming the shore that stays. Psychology shows us, when men suppress their needs to please, it breeds quiet resentment, not connection. And the more we merge, the more we lose polarity, the very energy that fuels intimacy. We began with a man who said, "I did everything right. So why does it feel so wrong?" Now he knows why. Because presence isn't about sacrifice, it's about wholeness. So tell me, what's one moment you gave too much and felt yourself vanish? Drop it below. Your story might help someone else find their center again. If this spoke to something inside you, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that don't just teach. They remember you to yourself. This is Metanoia, where stories don't end when the screen fades. They begin when you come back to you. Thanks for watching, and thanks truly for staying.